Hey guys, today we are back with my series where we look at the best fighters in the world. I give you 5 exceptional things about them and training tips so you can become a little bit more like them, something for you guys to work on at the gym. And today we are talking about Nate Diaz. He has just exploded since he fought Conor McGregor. He does not win all his fights, but when he does win, he does some pretty exceptional things that I want to talk about today. And many of the points that I'm going to bring up are very, very easily translated into drills that you can do at the gym, so I'm very excited for this episode. Alright guys, we're talking about Nate Diaz today, and he's one of those guys when you look at his record you go, really? This guy's one of the best in the world. He's exceptional. He has a lot of losses compared to his wins. But keep in mind, he's fighting the absolutely best guys in the world, and it's very rare to see him get completely dominated. And even though he's coming off a loss right now, I still think it's worth taking time to cover him and look at the few things that he does, which is very different than a lot of other fighters. Now, why don't we start this off and just go for his signature technique, the Stockton Slap. It's not his technique. I know it's something more that his brother utilized, a lot of guys around his gym. But the Stockton Slap is sort of becoming something that a lot of people associate with him because he utilized it so nicely in so many fights, and a lot of his fights have been super high profile because he fought Conor McGregor and had those amazing battles. Now, the Stockton Slap, if you don't already know, which probably everybody does, but you're just taking the palm of your hand, especially because they're in MMA gloves, and he's just full on slapping. But he's not slapping with this part of his hand. Obviously, it's not just like that. He's actually utilizing the whole palm, which gives it a little bit of extra power as opposed to just slapping with the fingers. Now, the reason this technique is so interesting for Nate is he already has very, very long arms. So his punch range is quite substantial. But a lot of times when people throw hooks, they want to throw here. Very few people throw long hooks. And if I'm throwing something like a jab or a cross, generally I'm not going to be able to throw the hook with much power. But when I go open hand, now from here, I'm able to touch there and I'm able to slap. And I'm getting full range, 100% full range. I can be super far away, especially for somebody like him. I could be way out here and just pop somebody to the side of the head. If you're catching people up to the ear or up to the temple, it's going to be unpleasant. You can definitely practice it on pads or on the bag. I've only had 2 MMA fights, 3 training camps with the 1 fight that fell through, but I've still practiced this as well. Somebody says jab, cross, hook. Instead of coming 1, 2, 3, I go 1, 2 in the slap with the open hand. I found it to be very powerful, and the pad holders go, wow, that is still a really powerful shot. But be sure not to go completely straight arm. I mean, I'm not going 1, 2 straight arm and come like this. I'm still getting some whip behind it. It's like throwing a baseball. I don't go like this. I get my whole body to move, the arm stays behind, and then it follows up. Same thing like on this one, just like a punch, I extend my arm out to the side, I whip my shoulder forward, and then my arm follows behind to get that maximum power. It's the difference between kind of coming like this and kind of getting that extra bit of jolt because I use my whole body. I haven't had anybody try to utilize this on me yet, so I don't really know in terms of fighting or sparring how difficult it is, but I can imagine that if somebody is very good at straight punches, you're throwing the straight punches right down that middle line and the person's guard starts to close up and the side of the head becomes exposed, that this slap could work very, very well. Obviously, if you're already throwing big hooks in and then you just try and slap, most likely the guy's going to block it like he would have blocked the hook. So being very, very diligent about throwing the straight shots, and Nate Diaz does that a lot. He comes 1, 2 down the middle, 1, 2 down the middle, and then from there, it's very easy to transition into that hook. Or for him, you know, he's just out here, he's moving around, he's doing his thing, and then just bam. Is it the best attack in the world? Definitely not, but it's unique, and I love the distance on it. Next, I want to move into Nate's fluid boxing combos. Now, a lot of people, when they throw, it's kind of 1, 2, 3. It's got that sort of traditional boxing pace behind it. Everything's crisp, but when Nate throws, it's sort of things coming about that speed. If I was throwing, let's say, I'm going to make up a combo here. We're going jab, cross, body, body, head. Traditionally, it would look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But he kind of goes like this. It's like, and technically, there's mistakes that are made. Normally, my hand would be to my head, hand to the head, hand to the head, head, and protected. I'm always protected. But with him, it's 1, 2, and then he kind of drops his arms and he's just floating from one shot to the other, which makes them very fast in between, very hard to block, very hard to keep up with. The difficulty with it is it makes it much easier to counter you. But if you have somebody who gets hit and they're hurt and they stumble backwards and they're guarding up like this, and this happens quite often to him when he hurts somebody and he goes on the attack, he's just able to let those hands really fly. And what I would advise you doing if you want to get better at throwing these really fast combos like Nate is when you have somebody who's holding for you, tell them you want to pick the tempo up just a little. If I'm holding for you, instead of, let's say, just jab, cross, hook, cross, instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, we kind of want 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But I can't do that. I just can't punch that fast unless I'm kind of letting my hands go a little bit less traditional, a little bit less unorthodox. He really likes switching from the uppercuts and the hooks. But like I said, the hands are low and the counters might come, but we're going to talk about why he's good at dealing with punches in one of our other points. So that's coming, guys. Don't run off anywhere. And if you guys have not already, give the video a like. Of course, get subscribed, and let's move on to point number 3. And on this one, I want to talk about the time between his jab cross. It's so quick when he's out here and he falls forward. Again, a lot of people 1, 2, but he's 1, 2. He almost has his jab. As his jab's coming back, a lot of people, it would look like this. 1, and the arms cross. But at some points, he almost has 2 arms out at one time. And it's something that you don't see too often. And again, technically incorrect. But a lot of times he's able to land it because somebody goes, okay, the jab's coming. They go to parry, and then all of a sudden the cross is coming over top. In order to parry those 2 shots, it would have to be something like that. We're used to 1, 2, 1, 2. But all of a sudden those 2 punches come. You deal with this one, and the second one hits you. He's been successful with it before. I'm sure he will be successful with this again in the future. To train this, you just want to get yourself at that distance where you're going to step in, throw your jab cross. He lets his head fall forward just a little bit because he knows his hands are coming away from his head for longer than normal. I normally have cover here. But for him, there's no cover for a split second when he has 2 hands out at this range. Dropping the head forward and slightly off on an angle is going to keep him protected from that counter shot, or at least make it more difficult for them to catch that angle when his head's way over here. Basically for Nate, some of the stuff that he does is so unorthodox that people won't be training for it most of the time. Now he's a high-level fighter. People know these. They probably are training for these oddities that he has in his style. But if you were to end up against somebody that you don't know you're fighting, somebody in the amateur ranks or a low-level pro, and they have the same style, it will definitely cause problems. So play around with your 1, 2. Play around and see if you can get it instead of like this. It's a little bit more fast in between the punches. It would be very difficult for the average person to deal with. All right, guys, next I want to talk about Nate's cardio. He just can go and go and go. How does he do it? Well, number one, obviously he does a lot of cross training. He does triathlons. That doesn't mean that everybody who's watching the video needs to go, oh shoot, Nate has really good cardio. He does triathlons. I got to go and sign up for a triathlon right now. It doesn't mean that at all. It just means that you should probably do some training outside your sport. It's very, very interesting sometimes where for myself, I focus on kickboxing, adding in the jiu-jitsu now, and I do a lot of running, and I think, whoa, I'm in good shape, nothing can tire me out. And then all of a sudden I end up in a pool and I go for a swim and I'm going, holy smokes, I'm in such good shape. How is this tiring me out? It's stepping outside your comfort level and finding activities that use your body in a completely new way, that challenge you in a new way. So that's one element of his cardio. The other is the breaks he takes mid-round. Next time you're watching a Nate Diaz fight, go to one of the rounds and just see how many times he actually takes pauses to relax. It looks like it's entertaining, but he's actually capitalizing on his breaks. So he might have, jumped in and just done what we were talking about. He steps in 1, 2, he hits the guy, and then he just kind of goes for a little walk, or he does something like this, but the whole time he's taking breaks. It's entertaining for the crowd. It's probably frustrating for the guy he's fighting, but more importantly in my mind, it's giving him that rest and recovery time. It's giving him time to breathe, time to just let his arms dangle down. When my hands are down here, I never do this. I always have my hands up. But yeah, there's sometimes my shoulders start to fatigue in the fights. Not so much now because I have a lot of drills I do, but in the past, definitely they would start fatiguing. But for him, his hands are down. He's maximizing his break. He's taking time to just recoup. He's putting on a bit of a show as he does it. If you guys are interested in looking or improving your cardio, making it look like you have really good cardio, You take breaks in between. I do this a little different than Nate in the fight. He drops his hands when he's far away from the guy. He kind of drops his arms, he shakes them out, he gives him a little evil eye. I like to take my breaks and maximize my break time when we're in here. If we're in the clinch, you'll see me, I'll drop my hands and I'll just hang here and let my arms loosen up until the ref comes and breaks. I'll keep my head very close to the guy, but I'm still making sure that I'm capitalizing on any break, not exerting energy which will be wasted, and especially when we're in that tight, just making sure I'm just capitalizing on the break, because you know the ref's going to come in, he's going to push us back. So if I was struggling in here fighting and I get pushed back, now I can go and I get a breath, and then right away the guy might be on me again. But when we're in here, if right away after I've thrown a knee, I just sort of fall and I take my rest, I'm resting, the ref comes in, he breaks me up, I can get a good 5 to 10 seconds of rest in that time period. So Nate does it as well. He takes lots of breaks, he just does them from a distance, whereas I do them in tight. I do them when we're in the clinch and I know a break is coming. It's a smart tactic, something that you can start utilizing in your sparring whenever you end up in a point where you're banged together or you're on the outside. Really go, okay, I'm going to capitalize on my break time. Just be very, very mindful of it. It'll make a world of difference. It does for Nate. People say he has cardio for days. People look at me a lot of times like, man, Gabe, you have good cardio. What do you do? Well, yes, I put in the road work. Yes, I do lots of work in the gym, but I'm also fighting very smart the way Nate does. It's all about up there. The last thing I want to talk with you guys, I said we would touch on it, is Nate's ability to take punches. Why does he not get dropped all the time? Him and his brother both take a decent amount of shots, but I want to talk about something unique that they both do, or something not even unique, but something proper that they do, because we talked about Nate's punches, how they're a little unorthodox, but when they get hit, it's very rare to see Nate get hit when his head's right up here, his chin's high, his body's really stiff. That's a bad time to take a punch. That's when you get jolted and your brain really gets rattled. But when you see Nate, we already talked when he throws his jab cross, his head's down here. When he trucks forward on people, he's moving forward, his head's here. When you project your head forward, you're giving yourself more distance when you get hit to have your head rock back, and you can absorb that more with your torso. But when I'm completely stretched out back here, if I'm somebody who fights like this, like Conor McGregor, when Conor gets hit, it doesn't look good. He's way back here. If you're somebody who, let's say, takes a big stance, you like to be really high, really tall, you like to fight like this, and then you get clipped, you have no flexibility through your back to have any give, and your head snaps so bad. Terrible way to take a punch. But Nate and his brother are both very good at keeping their chins tucked. They have their head forward, and then when they get hit, there's a little bit of recoil. There's a little bit of give. It's not going to rock you the same way that a high chin would and a straight back. I'm just going to use my reflex ball today to show you this drill. It's got the cord around it. If you guys are wondering what this is, you don't understand, just check out the link up there. Just making your own reflex ball. I did it. It's fun. But anyway, if you have a tennis ball and you just tuck it in here, if I keep my head up and my back straight, the tennis ball wants to fall. But as soon as I go like this, now it's very easy to hold that tennis ball. I can just keep this thing tucked to my chin. This is a great training tool. You just take the tennis ball, you tuck it in, and then you just move around. And you just do your shadow boxing with that tennis ball there. If every time you punch it falls, well, obviously either your back is straightening out or your jaw is lifting up. Sometimes people's ability to look like they're really good at absorbing punches is just the fact they're doing things correctly. Like, yes, Nate and his brother are tough. No doubt. Very tough guys. But if you ask them in their next fight to lift their chin up and fight from up here with a straight back and they start getting hit the way they do, it probably won't go well for them. The fight probably won't go the distance. So finding tools to remember to keep your chin tucked and your back a little bit down and your head a little bit forward, all those are really going to help you become that much more proficient at taking shots. It's not something that I really suggest people train for. It's not like you're going to drop your chin and practice getting punched. You don't want that. But you can definitely practice proper technique so that when you do get hit, the recoil of your body and everything can help you deal with the impact of the punch. Anyway, guys, Nate Diaz, super interesting fighter to cover. I just wanted to go through these 5 points. I think they're things that we can all work on, and it's fun covering fighters who are a little bit different, because sometimes you try something that a coach at a normal gym would never teach you, because technically it's incorrect, but you try it and you go, wow, this works so well for me. I've had that happen many times in my career. I try something I see another fighter do, which is not technically correct, and then I go, you know what, I'm adding that to my arsenal. It's something I'm going to utilize all the time. That's what I'm trying to do with this channel. I'm trying to find the things that people don't talk to you about already and just give you that information and make you a more complete, more well-rounded athlete who understands the whole scope of the sport that much better. All right, guys, thanks for joining me today. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. If you have not already, join the channel and get subscribed. Bump me up to 100,000 subscribers before the end of the year. I believe it will happen. Train hard, guys, and I'll see you back here soon for another video.